Barry, can you name a state program, tax, or fee that you would repeal?
Yes. And in fact, Mr. Vickers was the sponsor of this bill in the past session. And this gets back to what I was just talking about with the Occupational and Professional Licensing Review Committee. This is the Hunting Guides and Outfitters Licensing Act. This I consider to be an unnecessary government function. This should have been had. This basically takes the profession of being a hunting guide, and instead of people being able to declare themselves a hunting guide and search for people who would like to hire a hunting guide and enter a contract and take them off into the hills and show them where to shoot a bear or whatever, they now have to go through the state in order to get a license to do that. That's anti-competitive. That is the state getting into something that it just doesn't need to be into. The hunting guide industry could have handled this itself through an association of some kind that would provide a good housekeeping steel kind of thing that says, yes, you're a good hunting guide. We also have in this internet age, it's pretty easy to find out who's good and who isn't at these things. We really don't need the government being involved. So this particular bill, it raises the cost of hunting. It makes it difficult for individuals to hire the people they want to hire because the government decides which individuals are available for them to hire. So this is a bill that I would oppose. This would reduce taxes. This would reduce the size of government.
Well, obviously I wouldn't repeal that. Yeah, there's a few that I would try to repeal. SB 88, Senator Graham's bill. There's some tax bills that I would look at. Let me address this. This was brought up. This bill was brought to me by the Hunting Guides and Outfitters. It was brought to me by the Division of Wildlife Resources because we're the only state in the area that does not have regulation in that particular profession. We were getting people who were coming, the unscrupulous guides and outfitters were coming from out of state, into our state, taking advantage of individuals, leading people with airports. The complaint list was long. So now he said that he's going to raise the cost of hunting. Cost us a minimal fee for the guides and outfitters to become licensed. They pay the fee. They pay the cost of their occupation. And I had a really good mentor one time. Just when I was very first going on the city council, I went to talk to Tom Parton Sr., who's a good friend of mine. His son and I were very, very close friends until he passed away. And I asked him, I said, so give me some advice, Tom. I was saying, I'm going to run for city council, give me some advice. He said, and this is a guy that had been involved with the city and county government for a long time. He says, I'll give you two pieces of advice. One is never be afraid to ask for more time. And number two, he says, if you ever say you never made a mistake, you're mine. So, as you look at legislation, it's interesting but I'm sorry, but on this one, I'm dead right on this. As you look at legislation, you spend about 20% of the time in your first session fixing the bills that were put in place in the last session. So you spend a lot of time fixing bills, and it's a process. And unfortunately, that's the way it works.
Okay, Barry, you have a minute.
Okay, Colorado doesn't have licensing of hunting guides. So we aren't the only state in the area that didn't have one. Secondly, Evan says it won't raise costs. I think it does raise costs because if all it does is reduce the number of hunting guides available, then you have a smaller group of people able to provide the service, and therefore they're able to raise the price. I mean, that's pretty simple and straightforward. If somebody has to pay the cost of getting a license, going through what training is necessary to get that license, they're going to pass those costs along. So, let's not pretend it doesn't raise costs. Ultimately, the problem is that this is anti-entrepreneurship, and given the economy that exists in America right now, we don't want to do anything that discourages private enterprise and private initiative.
All right, next question, Evan. This one will go to you. Do you support Southern Utah University's new strategic goals? And if so, how do you feel is the best way to fund those strategies?
Yeah, I do. And for those of you who don't know what's going on, SUU, in our higher education system, we've got a lot a lot of facilities. It takes, this runs the gamut of our research institutions like Utah State, University of Utah, to our community colleges like Snow College, Salt Lake Community College, SLIC. We've got UVU that's growing really fast. We've got some of these schools that are just growing astronomically fast. Dixie. But SUU has a different model. We've tried to pride ourselves on quality. We're up around 8,000 students, which is a lot more than we had when we first moved here. But the administration has done a lot of research and looked at how can we separate ourselves? And their best way to separate themselves is to try to provide a private school experience for a public school price. And that's their push right now. Yes, I support that. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to grow for growth's sake. Now, the unfortunate part of it is in the past, we've had a growth element in higher education. Recently, they've done away with that. But it still seems like the schools get a bit more benefit if they're growing faster. So what SUU is trying to sell is the fact that we need to be able to increase that quality of education. It's going to increase some of the entrance requirements. It's going to try to reduce class sizes, improve the education experience. We're putting 5 different components to that education and allowing experiential components to that education. It's a real positive thing. So how can we fund that? Well, we need to, and we have been working, and we're making inroads with the legislature, especially with the Higher Ed Appropriations Committee, and tuning them into the fact that this is a good thing. Senator Urquhart from St. George is running a bill this next year that will actually bring that to the forefront. The regions are behind it. I think it's going to be a real positive thing. So it's going to set us aside and partner us with other like universities, try to be the William and Mary of the West. And so it's going to set us aside so that when you get an education from SUU, you walk away. That's really going to mean that much more.
Once again, obviously I support the growth of SUU. It's a great asset in this community. There's no question about that. It's a huge part of the jobs component of this community. So it certainly is extremely important. There is one aspect of the general plan in particular that I think we need to take a close look at that Evan didn't mention. And that is that if you look at the general plan and the projections that are out there, there's a lot of area that ultimately belongs to the university that's residential around the university right now. And we need to take a look at what exactly that impact is on the people who are there. And more importantly, there are an awful lot of properties for sale in that area that ultimately is intended to be part of the university. And we need to make sure that if somebody's buying a house in that area, they know that the plan is that they're not going to be able to have that house forever. We need to make sure that's disclosed. Perhaps even better, while property values are as depressed as they are right now, perhaps the university ought to be looking at purchasing some of those vacant properties while they're available, rather than waiting, 15 years down the road and then wanting to take it all by eminent domain. We need to look at ways of getting around that problem before it confronts us, rather than waiting for it to happen. As I might say happened with the construction project across the street from us here. We didn't deal with it until it was time to tear down the old pool. So we need to actually be doing some planning for SUU and not just, waiting for things to happen.
Just a quick comment. SUU is also closely tied to the Southwest Hawaii Technology College, and that's part of the higher ed program. And they're helping support, through this new model, that we continue to help support those programs as well. And they make a major part in our